Hello, and welcome to my Fire Emblem 9 Path of Radiance hard mode 100% gross low turn count playthrough. I'm your host Typhoon Carter. Now today I bring you Chapter 20. Chapter 20 is a pretty important chapter, although its objective is pretty straightforward. This is where Soren basically suspects that there's a traitor within the army, although we'll find that out the next chapter. Anyways, so in bases, there's a couple of things we need to do. First things first, we'll go ahead to the forge and we're going to make a Thunder Tome Forge. Now magic tomes tend to be way more expensive as far as forging goes because of the fact that their base cost tends to be much higher than other weapons for whatever reason, despite the fact that their might isn't very good in general. So you know, it's going to be very handy for a later map where Soren will have to fight eventually. And the other thing is that we're going to be needing Marcia and Jill to get heavily involved in this chapter, as they will need to head towards the arrive point. And the boss of this chapter is Shiharam, who is Jill's father. But before we talk about Shiharam, the other thing to note is that we do get one new unit through the info section at the base. But before we activate that conversation, we're going to save the game. Now, with this being done, we are going to basically have the option to hire or not hire this fine young lady who goes by the name of Khalil. Now Khalil is a pre-promoted sage, and the thing is that she can use basically all three magic types and has a decent rank in them, in the sense that she can use siege tomes. And the downside is that she wields knives instead of staves. This is an intentional design choice on the developer's part because they basically saw how good Sally and Pent were in GBA FEs, and they decided that every pre-promoted sage will not be able to use staves, at least in this game. So that was their way of attempting to balance out the sages. Anyway, so we have 20 turns to arrive, which is extremely generous given this map isn't particularly big, although the longer you take, the more reinforcements that will show up, so it's best that we take care of this map quickly. Now, besides heading to the arrive point, the other thing is that we need to get two villages. One of the villages, the one that you'll see up north that's like guarded by like several enemies, that one has the Smite manual, and the Smite manual will need it for a war room, so that will be extremely important. The other one is the village that holds a rescue staff, and it's like on the bottom end of the map. So we're having Oscar basically sent to go get the Smite village, and he also levels up. Now Mist here, she's brought along not to provide support for Jill because she doesn't have the mobility to keep up, but rather to heal people like Oscar so that she can get more experience, because Physic gives off a lot of EXP. So we're gonna have Kieran and Tanif basically head towards where the rescue village is, and there's a decent amount of enemies on this map, although in Maniac it's like even worse because there's way more enemies. Now Raisin, we have Titania rescue because Raisin's going to be in a lot of danger if we leave him unattended, and we don't really need him to dance on turn 2. And here Jill has the hand axe forge that we made from last chapter equipped. Now Marcia here, we start to see where her 23 strength cap actually starts to let her down, along with the fact that she doesn't have access to axes, which really hurts her, and this is where Jill's higher caps can start to help. Now Marcia wasn't danced because Marcia has more than enough move to reach the arrival point, aka where Shiharam is. Now one thing to note about Shiharam is that he actually, none of the units who are capped out, at least between Jill and Marcia, can actually one round KO him reliably without critting. But the downside is that Marcia barely misses the 1 round benchmark, at least with 1 crit with a Killer Lance due to her strength cap. So this means that Jill can actually do something that Marcia can't in terms of getting a more reliable boss kill, where Jill only needs 1 critical compared to Marcia's 2, at least with the Killer Lance. Although if I had hindsight, I would have given Jill the Killer Axe just to undo some of the weapon triangle disadvantage, in the sense where she loses out on damage. Anyway, so Marcia was not given 1 to 2 range because she can't really kill most of the wyverns anyways, and we had Jill equip 1 to 2 range to discourage them from going towards where Jill is, or at least attacking Jill. So that's partly why I did what I did. And Tanif here, basically, she's just here to be a distraction and allow Kieran to have a cleaner path to the village where rescue is. Although it should be noted that Tanif also, in theory, could fly past some of the terrain and get the rescue staff if needed. Having 2 units is just helpful so that they don't get trapped or cramped up, basically. Anyway, so as I said before, we're kind of messed up in the sense that we're sending Jill to kill her own fodder. But, you know, even though Jill probably had some reservations about that, Soren basically told her that he missed the part where that was his problem. And, you know, Jill is going to oblige with us. One thing to note is that if Jill did not have an A support with Mist, or a B support with Left, then it is possible for her to actually defect and become an enemy again. As the dialogue here notes that some of the wyvern riders are surprised that Jill is fighting with the enemy. But it's also pretty screwed in the sense that they basically decide to flood Jill's hometown, or at least attempt to, in order to buy time for the Dan army to work their way out of this. With that being said, in Maniac there would be even more enemies, and Marcia's low strength cap would be even more of a problem, and we would most likely need Jill to have her stats capped out at this point in the game if we were doing this on Maniac, so that's just something to note. And here, all these enemies basically have 1 to 2 range, but we basically get them to move out of the way so that Oscar can basically just enter the village. And like I said, the longer you take on this map, the more reinforcements will show up, which will also make it a little bit more annoying to get all the villages and to get to the objective faster. So, you know, this is just one way of going about it. And Morum here, he's just getting some free kills here for the most part, as Morum at base is pretty solid combat wise. And Titania here, she is going to try and get hurt on purpose so that Mist can potentially just heal her for some extra damage. And at this point, we are going to basically have this in the bag. We're just wrapping up all the side objectives that we need to take care of. And frankly, this map, admittingly, is not really too interesting to talk about for the most part. And there we get Smite, so that's definitely going to Marum. Anyway, so here we're going to watch Jill basically kill her fodder. And she has a 41% crit chance, so it's very likely that Jill gets 1 of 2 shots to crit and kill. And here, that's a pretty clean kill. And we get a ton of EXP for all our troubles as Jill levels up to level 4 and has 25 strength. We also get the Tomahawk for all our troubles. And Kieran is definitely going to appreciate that, given that he has the axe rank to actually put it to use. And we also get rescue, which is pretty nice. Here, I was trying to figure out which enemy I want to try and get Tanif to kill, so that she could potentially level up. Although, later I realized that she comes up just short of reaching the next level that we want her to reach, but you know, that's okay. And here we're basically done the map. That is chapter 20 cleared in 2 turns. I will see you guys next time for chapter 21. Bye bye.